Well, to discuss this further, I'm now joined by human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell. Peter, evening to you.
Good evening.
Why do you think the Ecuadorians have done this?
Well, we don't know for certain, but the word is that the Spanish government has been riled by Julian Assange's tweets about the Catalan independence issue and has made very strong representations to the Ecuadorian government to stop him. Now, that is not officially confirmed, but that is what we are told behind the scenes has been the motivation. And obviously that means the Ecuadorian government wouldn't have just given in lightly. There must be some leverage, some kind of pressure that's being exerted on the Spanish, by the Spanish on the Ecuadorians, possibly in collusion with the US. So it's a bit of a grey area.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because Ecuador is saying these comments could damage its international relations, but of course the relations between Ecuador and the US aren't particularly great, are they?
Well, that is true, that is true. And moreover, Julian Assange was granted political asylum by Ecuador. He's also been granted citizenship and a diplomatic passport. So he enjoys the same right to freedom of expression as every other Ecuadorian citizen. In the Constitution, in the laws of Ecuador, it says that people have a right to free expression. And whatever you think about Julian Assange's tweets on the Catalan independence issue, he is exercising his right to free expression under both Ecuadorian, international and indeed Spanish law.
Should we not therefore consider British law here? Because of course he did jump bail. As we heard earlier, one MP saying, why doesn't the miserable little worm walk out of the embassy and face justice?
Well, at the moment, of course, he faces no charges. In fact, he's never faced any charges. You put yourself in a situation, we know that a US grand jury has been convened which is looking at very serious charges, including possibly espionage, against Julian Assange. He is at risk of 30 to 40 years imprisonment if he ends up in the US and standing trial. I don't think any sane, rational person would walk out of a place of refuge and put themselves in the firing line where they could end up being extradited to the United States and ending up serving 30 to 40 years in prison.
At one stage, had a lot of support from the British press. That sort of friendship has somewhat dissipated. What sort of support does he have now, Julian Assange, do you think?
Well, you're right. I mean, there has been a very corrosive campaign to discredit him and indeed to discredit WikiLeaks. And I think that some of the support has ebbed away. I think certainly it's true that the allegations of sexual assault in Sweden did damage his cause greatly. But as we know, he was never charged with any offence, and the Swedish authorities eventually dropped those charges or those allegations, dismissed those allegations completely. So he's never faced any charges. So, I think it's a bit unfair. A person is innocent until proven guilty. I mean, I would have liked him to have faced those charges and answered them, because I think, sexual assault is a very serious, grave matter. But, on the other hand, he always offered cooperation with the Swedish authorities. Right back from 2011, 2012, he said, come to Britain and interview me. He was willing to be interviewed. It took the Swedes 5 or 6 years to do that. And in the end, when they looked and reviewed all the evidence, they decided to take no further action. So he has done, I think, perhaps not in the orthodox way, but he's done the right thing. And now there are no charges to face. So that matter is closed. I think we need to look at this issue in terms of the public service that Julian Assange and WikiLeaks have performed in exposing war crimes and government cover-ups, the way in which they have denied the American people and people around the world the right to know what governments are doing in our name. He has been a servant of the people, and of course, big powerful governments like the United States are very angry because their secrets, their wrongdoings have been exposed.
Ecuador has cut off Julian Assange's communications with the outside world from its London embassy, where the founder of the WikiLeaks, he's been living there for 6 years. In a statement, the government of Ecuador said it has acted because Assange had breached, quote, a written commitment made to the government at the end of 2017 not to issue messages that might interfere with other states.
A very, very specifically worded rule. That's very, it's very like
not to issue messages that might that could be anything.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
that could be any. So at any point, Ecuador is giving themselves an ability to cut off his internet.
That's what I find most disturbing about this. I mean, it's just so vague, and they can apply it in any context they want to. And especially, you know what Julian Assange's job is? He's a journalist.
Yeah.
Basically, if you're a journalist that applies to you every single day. Every single day, you put out messages.
Yeah.
Because that's what journalism is. At the end of the day, it's a message that might interfere with states.
Yeah.
like any polis. Like
he's not putting out, human interest stories about the bake sale.
No.
No, he's talking about
cat videos.
He's doing corruption all the way. According to the statement, Assange's recent behavior on social media, quote, put at risk the good relations Ecuador maintains with the UK, with other states of the European Union, and with other nations. The government acted after Assange tweeted critically on Monday of Britain's accusation that Russia was responsible for the nerve agent poisoning of a Russian former double agent and his daughter in the city of Salisbury earlier this month. Now, it looks like that is, again, another BS false flag. That isn't it funny when the CIA wants to kill someone, they drop them out of a window, no trace. But when Russia spies want to kill someone, they do it in the most Barney Fife way possible. They use it in such a traceable way. They do it in a way that could be traced directly back to Kremlin. Isn't that amazing that they would do it so sloppily like that? Yeah, that is amazing, which is why they didn't do it. Assange also questioned. Next thing I'm going to do is say Russia has weapons of mass destruction. That's the next one. They're going to say WMDs, and we have to do preemptive war. We have to do preemptive war. We're going to do. Remember preemptive war? That was our policy. Preempt. We have to preempt before they hit us. Assange also questioned the decision by the UK and more than 20 other countries to expel 150 spy diplomats. 150 Russian diplomats they claim are spies. This is not the first time Ecuador cuts off his internet access. It wasn't. The same thing happened in October 2016 when Ecuador thought they would be sucked into efforts to interfere in the American election by the activities of the WikiLeaks founder. And so here are the tweets. That got his internet cut off. Number one, he said, the manner and the timing of Russian diplomatic expulsions is poor diplomacy. The expulsions occurred 12 hours after one of the worst building fires in post-Soviet history, which killed at least 64. Russians will see the timing as gratuitous. Okay. 2 out of 3. That 21 U.S. allies have expelled diplomats over an unresolved event in the UK, and that the U.S. expelled nearly 3 times as many diplomats as the UK, the alleged victim country, helps the Kremlin further a narrative that it is under conspiratorial siege led by the United States. So what he's saying is this plays right into the Russian government's narrative, their story to everybody, including their own people, that the United States is leading this conspiratorial siege against their country, which they frickin' are. This is an unresolved incident in the UK. We haven't had an investigation that has come to a conclusion yet. This is WMDs all over again. And I'm going to do after this another video that shows you all the information about this nerve gas incident in the UK that the establishment media isn't showing you. But back to this, because this is what we're talking about now. And here's his last tweet that got his internet cut off. He said, further, while it is reasonable for Theresa May to view the Russian state as the leading suspect, so far the evidence is circumstantial. And the OCPW, what's the OCPW? It's the...
So that stands for the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, and that is a UN body.
So he says that organization for the...
It is the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons.
They have not yet made an independent confirmation. So the investigation isn't over. And you're doing all this stuff before we have a conclusion, which makes it look like exactly like what it is. It's awesome. This is amazing. It's right. And again, of course, the establishment press just goes right along with this. No skeptics on TV anywhere. No skeptics on TV anywhere of the official narrative. Just like on MSNBC when they were in the run-up to the Iraq War, Phil Donahue would have Iraq War skeptics on his show. And guess what happened? They told him, don't do that anymore. He kept bringing in Iraq's war skeptics on his show, and guess what happened? They fired him. Even though his show was the most highly rated show on the network at the time, they fired Phil Donahue because he was telling the truth about the Iraq War. And everybody over at MSNBC, including Chris Hayes, and especially Rachel Maddow, knows that if they tell the truth about this nerve gas poisoning or even have a be skeptical moment about it, their ass is in trouble. Which is why MSNBC sucks so hard and why our show is so popular. It's because they suck so bad, because they're afraid to lose their $30,000 a day, which is what they get paid. They get paid more than that. So there it is. Permitting the Kremlin to push the view domestically that Russia is persecuted. So there it is. And that's why they're screwing on, you know, and Julian Assange, I know you've seen a lot of propaganda that makes you want to hate him. It's just that. It's propaganda. Julian Assange is a guy who told the truth. No one's ever accused him of lying. Isn't that weird? And they still hate him. What did he do? He told the truth about the rich and the powerful. And then they go, we got to get rid of him. Oh, I know. We'll tie him to Russia and Trump, and that's how we'll burn this guy. And that's what they're doing. And that's exactly what they're doing. Just like they said Saddam had WMDs. And remember they tortured Chelsea Manning for 7 years? The same stuff. Barack Obama tortured Chelsea Manning. Don't ever forget that. And so these aren't nice people that he's exposing their secrets. They're all liars and they're corrupt criminals of the highest order. And so, of course, he makes lots of enemies. And very powerful ones. And they're trying to kill him. They want to kill him. They want to... Hillary Clinton already said she wanted to kill him. What the CIA wants to do to Julian Assange is what they're saying Russia did to that spy. That's what they want to do to him. And he's not a spy. He's a journalist.
And he's a journalist who's not making $30,000 a day.
And he is not. No,
he's a journalist who did what he did at the expense of his own freedom.
Of his own freedom. He told the truth at the expense of his own freedom. Chris Hayes isn't fit to lick his boots.
Certainly not fit to look him in the eyes.
It's certainly not fit to look him in the eye. No, you're right. So, and if you went on MSNBC and you said nice things about Julian Assange, you would look like a crazy person to everybody who watches that. Like, what? Wait a minute. Why are you saying nice things about that? What? We've been told every day what a horrible person he is. You've never been told what horrible things he did because he didn't do any. He printed the truth about corrupt oligarchs. We need more Julian Assanges, not less. And so I don't know what we could do to help. I don't know if there's anything we can do. I'm doing this video to raise awareness about how a guy's being screwed over. Oh, by the way, that rape charge, I completely debunked 6 ways to Sunday. The lawyers, the prosecutors in who did what's the country where he's being prosecuted? Sweden, right? They were embarrassed about what the prosecutor did. They were doing all kinds of underhanded stuff. They could have had this done with a long time ago. They didn't. They wanted to drag it out because this is the CIA and the establishment pressuring people, and this is how it looks. Okay, so that's why we're here. We're here to tell you the stuff that you're not going to hear. This is a tragedy. And this is, Barack Obama used the Espionage Act to prosecute journalists who are exposing war crimes, and now they're doing this to him because he's a journalist who exposes corruption of the oligarchs, including war crimes. That's what this is about. No matter what you hear on CNN, MSNBC, or even some lefty internet shows, that's the truth, and that's why you come to this show. So please make sure you're subscribed. Even if you think you are, you're probably not. And click that bell so you get a notice every time we drop a video. They're trying to suppress shows like this. We have to fight back. And if you can become a patron, we give you bonus material every week. Lots of it, lots of funny sketches and hours of extra materials. If you can become a patron, we really appreciate your support. And we're steaming it right now.